try and use the videos from class, which were pretty disjointed because I was walking around class a lot. I'm just going to go ahead and redraw the building that is on your assignment and that we did in class last week, and I'm going to do it in SketchUp from start to finish. First thing I would recommend doing is printing the drawings, or at least opening them up and having them on your someplace where you can view them. In my case, there's the plan. And here's the elevation. Next, I want to sign in to SketchUp. I'm going to start by going into Chrome. I'm just going to type sketchup.com. There it is for free. I'm going to go start modeling. I'm going to accept all cookies. Start modeling. And we'll wait for SketchUp to load. Create new. First thing I do, I use my select arrow. And I get rid of the guy on there. I'm going to start with the plan. I'm going to start with the front of the building. So we're looking at the plan view. I thought I had the plan view, but apparently I don't. Give me a second. There is the plan view. I'm going to zoom in a little. I'm going to start at this corner of the building. Doesn't really matter where you want to start, but I'm going to start here. We're going to be looking from this direction. So I've got a wall that is 30 foot 7 inches. I'm going to go back to my drawing, hit the pencil tool, 30 foot 7. I type in 30 foot 7, enter. Now you can see I've already gone off the page. I'm going to zoom out with my scroll wheel. I'm going to pan. Should be down here, pan. And I'm going to orbit a little. Get it where I want. The next dimension I've got is 13 foot 1. Wait till it clicks on the endpoint. Left click, 13 foot 1. You want to be careful how you hold your mouse button. Next one's 24 foot 1. And we go over 21 foot 1. We come back 23 foot 2. All right, and then I want to go over 16 foot, oh, excuse me, 16 foot 2 is the dimension of the patio. I'm going over 17 foot 3. I go forward 31 foot 6. And now if I've done this right, I should be able to go on the green axis and go right to the end point. See how that goes? If I did it wrong, that line wouldn't touch that end point. And I'm going to go ahead and do it wrong, erasing that line, and instead of going 31.6, I'm going to go a little too far. Watch what happens when I go to the end point. See how the line changed from green to black? Green means it's straight, black means it's not straight. We don't want it not straight. And when you finish up, that's a nice way of checking that you've got, that you did everything right and you didn't mess up a dimension earlier. Then I click and the whole thing shades in. Next step I'm going to do, orbit a little. I want to turn this into 2 separate boxes. I use my pencil. I come down. Now, as I'm dragging it, notice it'll just stop right here. It automatically lines up with that if I hold it over there. So that's a handy feature of Sketchup. It just hovers, I click, and then I click. Now I've got 2 separate boxes. With this in place, I can then move on to the elevation drawing and start putting in some heights. So what I want to do, I really don't know why. I have no idea. No, that's not working. Let's close that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and open up the plan again because I wanted to show you a couple things. Here's what I wanted to show you on the plan. Notice that there's the dashed line below. That's the building. The dark line is the roof line. When we're drawing the building, we're going with the building lines below. Be careful by this patio. That 16 foot 2 dimension is not to the building. It's just for the patio. Having said that, now we're going to go back to our heights. And the first height I want to do is going to be the front of the building. And I want to get this height to up here. This is kind of the start of the roof. All right, we can either add up all these dimensions, 111, 47, 37, 47, and 17, and do one pole, or we can do it one at a time and just extend it 1 foot 11, then 4 foot 7, then 3 foot 7, then 4 foot 7, then 1 foot 7, which is how I'm going to do it, so I don't have to do a whole lot of math right now. Getting back into SketchUp. I'm going to go ahead and push pull, which is this figure right here. If I hover over it, there's push pull. Click on push pull. Click it. Take your finger off the mouse. Start moving it up. Type in 1 foot 11. Click it. Start moving it up. Type in 4 foot 7. Click it. Start moving it up. Type in 3 foot 7. Click it, start moving it up, type in 4 foot 7. Click it, start moving it up, type in 1 foot 7. Great, now we've got the front of the building. Now I want to do the rear of the building. And for that, if we go ahead and look at our elevation, you'll notice I've got 7'0" and 1'9". So I want to do the same thing to the back one, only using 7'0" and 1'9". I'm going to orbit just so I can see what I'm working on. 7'0", 1'9". Next step is going to be to put roofs on these. Again, as I mentioned before, there's numerous ways to do roofs. I'm going to start with the big building, the big section of the building. I'm going to go back to my elevations. And if I look, you'll notice you've got the peak of that roof being at 12'1", and it falls in the middle of the building. I'm going to draw a line using the pencil tool. I'm going to find the middle. Well, that's easy. If I drag it along the line, it'll just click on midpoint. Left click, go up, make sure it's on blue axis, 12'1". I'm then going to complete the triangle. And I'm then going to push pull. I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to left click, take my finger off the mouse, go back, hover over this line. When it says on edge, I click. And here I can do the same thing, or if I just double click, it will just automatically do what the last dimension was, like that. I've got a triangle here I've got to fill in. There, and now I can orbit to see how the rest of the building looks. It looks good, except notice that I've got these two shapes that are gray where the rest are white. That means these have been reversed, and I want to fix that. I use my select button, left click over the item, reverse face. Left click over the item, reverse face. I'm going to then move on and do the back of the building. Now I'm going to start at this end because this end's all chopped up because the other building butts into it. I go back to my elevations to see how high the roof is. In this case, the roof on the garage is 10'5". I draw a line from the center, midpoint, make sure it's blue. Then I'm going to do the same technique I did before by using push-pull. Oops. Want to make sure it turned blue and pimply. Push-pull, bring it all the way to the end, and then double-click on this one and do the same thing. I'm going to fill in the triangles by just tracing over one of those. I'm going to go ahead and reverse those screwed up faces. That looks pretty good. I've got one reversed face here. I did see something I want to address up here too. Now, you'll notice that where the buildings butt up to one another, there's no line here or here. I would actually like those planes to be separate. In order to do that, I take my pencil tool, I hover, wait till it says endpoint, I come up, wait till it says on edge, intersection, click it. I can then rotate by using the orbit command. Sorry, I should have said orbit. Use my pencil tool, I'm already on the endpoint, intersection, oops, endpoint. I'm going to orbit and do the same thing on the back. See where this roof hits that wall. Click. All right, now these are all separated planes. Escape. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of some of the junk. Oh, look, I made a mistake. See that? I thought I was drawing along this plane, but I wasn't. I have a line here. Let's get rid of it. And let's redo this separation right here. Endpoint. And I'm going to come up and I want to make absolutely sure it says endpoint. And that is probably going to look a little better. We're all set. Next, I want to get rid of what I call junk lines. Excuse me. These lines here we don't need anymore. Select them by clicking on them. And then I hit delete. They turn blue. See how they turn blue? And we get rid of them and make them go away. Just cleans up the drawing. And if you do that as you work, it's just, you're going to have to do it sooner or later, and doing it now gets them out of the way for future work. You can always put them back in if you really feel the need to. Orbit. Little trick. If I hold down the shift key, see down here it says click or drag to select object. Shift equals add, subtract, control equals add, shift plus control equals subtract. If I hold down the shift key, and these commands might be different on your computer, it'll say down at the bottom of the screen. I hold down the shift key, you'll notice a little plus or minus as I plus shift key down, the plus or minus comes out, shift key up. So hold down the shift key, I can click on, I can make a bunch of these blue, and then hit delete and get rid of all of them. A little time saver there. Okay, we've gotten this far. Our next step is going to be to possibly add some windows to this. So how are we going to start doing that? I would use the copy command. Well, it's the move command turned into copy. What we know from the elevation is that on the big part of the building, the windows start at 1'11" up and they go up 4'7". So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this bottom line here, see it turn blue. I'm going to hold down my shift key, select this bottom line. I've got these two lines, and to be honest with you, even though you don't have to do this because we're only worried about these faces, I'm going to click on this line as well. So now I've got the three front lines. I click on my move tool. I wait till it says endpoint. Now, if you look at the bottom of the screen, click to begin moving pre-select item. Control equals cycle copy, stamp move. Control on mine, it might be command on yours. If I press the control button, see how the plus sign came up? I pressed and released the control button, the plus sign came up. Now I left click my mouse and click, bring it up, and I go up 1'11", 1'11". Now I can do the same thing, press and release the control button, left click the mouse, release it, and come up 4'7". Enter. Left click the control button and release it, left click the mouse and release it, and come up 3'7". And then the next one's 4'7". Left click control. Oops, excuse me. Release it. Left click the mouse. Hang on a second. We're just going to go escape. Let's go ahead and select those lines again. Use my move tool. Left click the control button in my case. Left click the mouse. Go up 4'7". Okay, that takes care of those windows. Now I've got windows in the front. What am I going to do with those? Well, I'm going to start by putting a line back in. I'll put a line here because that's where we measured it from. I'm then going to select that line. Actually, it's two lines. Because I'm not sure why it came out two lines. I'm going to select them both. Oops. Oh, sorry, I am there. Go back into the move command. The bottom of these windows is 1'6". Make sure you're on the blue axis. It's going to be hanging out over the edge of the roof, but that's okay. And then 4'7". Okay, now let's get rid of some junk lines. We don't need this line, and notice it's just going to erase part of the line, not the whole thing. Let's get rid of those. Done. Okay, I want to start putting the windows on the bottom. If I go back to my elevation view, it tells me the window's 4'2" in and the window's 2'9" wide. So from this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this line, and I'm going to go ahead and add this line. I'm going to do the copy button. Well, the move button with the copy command, sorry. I go over 4'2", and then I go over 2'9" by copying. Okay, enter. Now I want to go over 4'9". I'm getting all these dimensions from the elevation. Plus sign, left click. Plus sign, left click. Oh, did it again. Okay, now I've got all the windows on the front of the house blocked out. I can go ahead and erase some lines. I do want to do the windows up in the gable, which are going to be a little trickier because how I've got them dimensioned. Okay, if I go to the elevation, if I remember correctly, this didn't work out so well in class, but the windows on this building aren't centered. If you'll notice, they're off to the left a little bit. There's less space here than there is there. I'm starting on this side. I'm going over 8'3". So one way to do that is to simply draw a line right on top of this line. Left click, go over 8'3". And see, if I drag along the line, it'll take me to the end point. There's one edge of the window right there. The windows again are 2'9". Select that part of the window. Use your move tool. Go over 2'9". There's 2'7" between the windows. And then we're going to go 2'9" again. Now we've got the windows up in the gable. I'm going to eliminate lines I don't need. And now I'm going to start working on the windows on the other side of the building. If we go back to our elevation, if we look, we can see we've got two windows that are 5'3" off the front of the building. Well, let's find those. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the lines of the windows. I'm going to copy them by using the move command. 5'3", option, excuse me, press the wrong button. Make sure you have that little plus sign there. 5'3". The window's 2'9". All right, now I've got windows down below that are 7'10" away. Oops. I didn't make sure I had my plus sign. And then 2'9". Now I'm going to do a little tricky thing. I can either type in 2'9". I use my control, or since I know the windows are the same width as this one, I can click here, endpoint, and here, and it automatically did it that distance. But we don't have a window up top, so let's go ahead and get rid of that one. That's not there. Going up top, we know that we're 2'4" over. Excuse me, I'll show it on the elevation. This window is 2'4" over, 2'9" wide, and then 2'7" to this window. So we're going to go ahead and, not sure where that 2'4" is from, but it will work. Let's go back to our drawing. Highlight these two lines using the shift tool. Go back to the copy tool. 2'4". And I'm going to just cheat, and I know that's 2'9". There's 2'9". Now I got all my windows on the bottom, but I got one more on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and select just the top line. I just want that top one blue. It is, according to the elevation, 2'7" away. And then it again is 2'9". And there we go. I'm going to erase the lines I don't need anymore. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to hit save and see what it comes up with. I'm going to go ahead and save it to projects. Under SketchUp, I'm going to give it a name, 2219 SketchUp demonstration. Save here. All right, so now and the name came up there. Now if I get kicked offline or something bad happens, I won't lose any of my work. I'm going to go ahead and do the garage now. I go back to elevations. Let's go up to the top one. And the garage door is 10 feet. It starts 1'6" off the end, and it's 7 feet tall. So how do I do that? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and go. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line 1'6" over. There's the end point. Left click. I'm going to draw a line at 7 feet tall. I'm going to draw a line over for 10 feet. And I'm just going to come down to the edge. Now I've got my garage door. I've got that funky little door there, but I felt that apparently is 9'1" over from here. So if I go 9'1", it is 4 foot tall. It is 2'11" wide. And then I come down 4 feet, but I don't even really have to, because if you'll notice, it will automatically assume I want to go down there. Click, click. There's that little door. And then I go ahead and delete that. Let's work on the side elevation. So now we're going to be working on this, where I've got that funky little roof that sticks out over the propane tanks. Okay, well, I know that that roof starts 5'1" from the end of the building. So I'm going to go 5'1". And I know it goes for 13'11". So let's just go ahead and make a copy of this. The top of it, the bottom of the roof is at 5'7", and the top of the roof is 1'9" above that. So I can go ahead, select this bottom line. Go up 5'7", and then go up, excuse me, 1'9". Okay, that's kind of where the roof goes, but now I've got to figure out how that roof sits in front of the elevation. And I know that the slope on that roof is the same. Here, let me let go of that. Let's take a look at this. If you look here on the elevation, the slope of this roof is the same as the slope of that roof. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to copy one line from this roof. I'm just going to stick it right on the end there. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. I'm going to draw a line out to here, but make sure it's on the, that doesn't look right, green axis? Should it be on green? It should be on green. Yes, it's on the green axis, so we come out to here, we make that little triangle. Just looked a little funky because I'm zoomed in on it. I'm going to delete that. We're then going to push-pull this to here. And now we've got our roof. I'm going to do some erasing now to get rid of some lines I don't need. Okay, so now what's happened is from this view, we've got all the windows on and the little roof over the propane tanks. At this point, I would, after I save, I would try and bring in a site plan. And then we can take it further if we want to. But just having this done to this point would be a lot of help to you when you have to take it to the next step, which is going to be tracing it, which we'll do in some upcoming classes. But now let's go ahead and bring in the site plan. And how do we do that? Well, I'm going to go over here on these three bars, and it says import. I'm going to go My Device, upload a file from your device into the model, import file, click on My Device, and if I go to Desktop, there's the plan. I click on that, I hit Open, and over here I hit Image. If you'll notice, now I've got the plan. What I've got to somehow do is get the plan laying flat on the ground in the direction I want it. And let's see if I go here. No, if I go here. All right, that's not in the direction I want it, but at least it's flat on the ground. So I'm going to click it and just, I left click. I'm going to stretch it out and put it there. Now, a couple things are going on. One, the plan's going the wrong way. And two, the plan isn't the right scale. So first thing I want to do is I want to fix the direction and the scale. I'm going to move it away from the house to do that. Just going to click on move and just on the green axis, make sure you're traveling on axis. Just going to move it up there. First I'm going to rotate it to make sure that it's going the same direction as the house, which would be, take me a second to find the command. It's under the little move icon. We hit rotate, you'll get a little protractor. I want to rotate it 90 degrees. I just left click on the corner, release, bring a line out here, click and release, and then you can spin it 90 degrees. You can see down here it said 90, or I could just type in 90. Well, that's great. Now I've got it going in the same direction as the house, but it's not the right size. You can see that it's too small. This square should be the same size as this square, this size. So what do we do to fix that? Well, first of all, let's figure out how far off we are. And I'm going to do that by going right up to the scale that's on the drawing. Go ahead and orbit that. And you can see this says that this line should be 16 feet long. So I'm going to measure it. And according to this, my line isn't 16 feet long. It's 7 foot 1 13/16 inches. For now, we're going to call that 7 feet. I have to scale this and make it bigger. I want something that's currently shows as 7 feet up to 16 feet. The way to do that, there are two ways. One is to just go ahead and use the scale tool, which I've got to find, which is also under, now it's under the circle where the move one was. See this? Scale. And if I click on this item, left click, notice I got these little squares here. Well, I can drag it until I think it's about twice as big or whatever that worked out to. And you'll get close, and you can keep on doing that over and over again until you get it right. You can line it up with the building. There's an easier way to do this. We measured this line, and what's supposed to be 16 feet is 7 foot 2. If I go ahead, and I'm actually going to use the 7 foot 2. If I go 2 inches divided by 12, that equals 0.1667, and I add that to 7, that 7 foot 2 equals 7.16667 feet. If I take 16 and I divide it by that number, the answer that I come up with is 2.2326. Your numbers are going to be different depending on how you brought it in. But you take your measured number and the number you want to get to, and you divide one over the other. In this case, the answer was 2.23. I'm going to left click on a corner where it says uniform scale about opposite point, release, start bringing it up, and then just type in 2.2326. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. I don't think I can pan. I'm going to pan so I can get a better look at it. And now I'm going to measure and see how close I am. I use my measuring tool, little tape measure over here, measure. And that is, yeah, 16 foot, well, it's 16, and depending on where I want to put my mouse, I'm at 15, 10, and 13. It's close enough, is what I'm saying. I could take it even further. Let's do escape. Yeah, 15, 11. That's close enough to 16 feet for me. Now that I have it scaled appropriately, all I want to do is slide it under the building. And I want to get this corner of the building under this corner of what I've drawn, this corner of the site plan under here. You need to do this carefully because what you don't want to do is move your site plan up and down on the blue axis by mistake. So always move it on the green axis or the red axis, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go ahead and get to the Move tool. I'm going to left click, release, slide it down just on the green until it looks like the corners lined up with the building. Remember, it's the dashed line that's the actual building. Left click right there. Now I'm going to left click again and move it on the red axis. And there, I've got my site plan right under my building. You can kind of see the roof overhangs there. But now you've got the driveway, you've got the trees. And this is going to be important because when we do the perspective, we're not just showing the building, you're going to want to show all these things. So now I want to get a nice view. And I'm going to hit save just because I can. Now I want to get a nice view of this. So let's take a look at something. I'm going to pan, kind of get the building in the middle of my drawing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now, I want you to pay attention to the horizon line. This right here is the horizon line. The horizon line is going to fall on the building however tall the observer's eye is. And I'll show you what I mean by that. We know that this window here, the top of this window is about 7 feet up in the air. It's 1'11" and 4'7". So it's 5'18", so it's 6'6", so almost 7. So what I mean by that is if I looked at this building, if my eyes were at 6'6", and I was standing by this building, see how the horizon line lines up with the top of those windows? That's what it would look like. If I were a kid, and I'm going to zoom in a little here. So this is a very tall person, a person that's got their eyes at 6'6". For someone like me, now what if I were a kid and I were only 3 foot tall? Now all of a sudden, see how the horizon moved down the side of the building? That's about 3 foot up that line. That means that's the view there. If I were on a tall ladder that was taller than the building, the horizon line would be up above the building. Architecturally, when I'm doing illustrations, I like to put, oh, by the way, I already see I made a mistake on the front that I'll have to fix. I like to put my horizon line about where the eye level is. And that's great for amplifying the building. Sometimes I'll even make it a little low to make the building look more dramatic. It's great for architectural perspectives, but it's not great for landscape perspectives because you'll notice you don't get to see much of the landscaping here. Whereas if I come up in the air more, now all of a sudden I can see the landscaping. Okay? I can see the driveway. So that's known as a bird's eye view because you're higher than a person. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a bird's eye view for this that I like. I'm going to kind of futz around between the orbit tool. I want to make sure I can see the site, but I don't want the elevation way up there. I like the elevation, I like it to be probably about here. Don't line up your horizon right with your roof line. I typically want it a little below the roof if possible. So let's do that. Now, if you'll notice, I kind of like that view, but I have to be careful when I'm orbiting or zooming, excuse me, so that I want to keep that height about where it is, right about there. Notice the horizon doesn't line up with the roof, doesn't line up with the top of the windows. Now I can just zoom, the problem that I have now is this is too small. I don't like where it falls on the sheet. I can get it bigger, which I want to do. Now I could zoom in, but a couple things are going to happen. Notice one, I chopped off part of this drawing, and I want to show that. And two, now all of a sudden the horizon line got lower when I just used zoom. Whereas it was here, see how the horizon line moved? So how can I get this view that I like and move in on it and be able to see all this stuff? We're going to use a couple different commands. You're going to use over here, see walk? Those are little feet. Left click and walk towards the house. And just hold it. And it's going to walk you towards the house. If you wanted to walk down the street, you could. I'm too close. I'm going to walk back a little bit. Now that's great. I kind of like that view. Notice the horizon line stayed right where it was. But I want to look down and see more. Well, you can do that. Go to your walk and click on the eyeball, and you can look up or tilt your head down. What's the difference between this and zoom? Well, in zoom, you were moving back further and it messed up with the horizon line. In this, you're just tilting your head down. And now I kind of like this view, but it's still too small. And if I look all the way down so I can see the front of the driveway, I chop off the house. If I look up to get the top of the house, I chop off part of the driveway. So I am going to want to zoom back a little, which I'm going to do right about there. I'm going to go ahead and orbit that a little to get that horizon line a little bit lower. I'm then going to look around with that eyeball and center it on the page a little better. So I like that view right there. That's going to be a nice view to trace later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here where it says scenes, and I'm going to hit plus, and that just gave me scene 1. You can name it if you want to say front view aerial. How's that? Or actually, I'm going to go bird's eye because that's what I keep calling it, bird's eye. So now if I move around and screw things up or, click on stuff and mistakenly pan stuff to oblivion and all of a sudden I've lost the drawing, I don't know where, if I just click on this, it will take me right back to this scene. Now I've got the scene. What I failed to do was put in a front door. I've got all these windows, and that's actually not a window, so I want to fix that. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on it. My door height is the same as the windows, but the sides are in a different location, so we're just going to erase all these lines and get our door in there, and I'm even going to put that little entry cap over it. So let's just get the door in to start. It's 1'5" plus 7 inches over. So that's 2 feet over. And go over 2 feet. I'm going to come right down to here. The door is 2'10" wide. Yeah, now I've got my door, and that doesn't look right to me because it's supposed to be centered under this window. I'm going to go ahead and erase those lines. So someplace I made a mistake in my calculations. If I look at the elevation, it says I've got a 1'5" post, and I used the wrong dimension. I'm sorry. All right, so the door is centered under the window. It's not 2 foot, which is 7 plus 1 foot 5 to the edge of the door. It's 2 foot to the edge of this 5 foot 5 opening. So let's go ahead and see if we can correct that. What I can tell from the elevation is it's centered right under this door. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line here down to here. Half of 2 foot 10 is 1 foot 5. So if I copy this, 1 foot 5, and then I copy this one, 2 foot 10. Now I've got my door and it erased part of it, but we can fix that. Disconnect that line. I don't know why it chose to erase, but it did. Sometimes SketchUp's too smart for its own good. Go ahead and erase lines I don't need. Well, that's a problem. All right, there. Let's hit save. Okay, now I've got my door there. I've got a scene selected. Based on that, if you folks could get this far, I'd be happy. However, I would take this a little further and I would start to put some trim details on it. And in that case, I'd put some trim at the roof and some trim around the windows, and I'd do this front entry, and I might even throw some propane tanks in it, and maybe even do a little detail on this garage door. So I'm going to go ahead and do a bunch of stuff to this, and it might seem a little, if you can't get it, that's fine. Again, if you can get to this far, you've done all you really have to do. What you would typically do in this case is you would print it by going print. And in my case, I can go print to PDF right down here. And hit OK. It's going to ask me where it wants to go. At least I thought it did. Oh, it just went to downloads. It's down here in my, there it is in Chrome. And I'm assuming it went to downloads. I will check in a minute. Yeah, there it is in Chrome. I'm going to just check on my file manager and see. And sure enough, there it was. And hopefully, cancel. I didn't just shut off SketchUp by mistake. Recently closed. Well, let's go to, no, I don't want that. There we go. All right, I got back to it. All right, so I'm here. Again, the things that I would do is I would add the roof. I would add some trim around the doors and windows. So let's go ahead and do some of that. I'm going to save the roof for last because it gets tricky how I do the roof. I would show overhangs on the roof. You can fake this when you're drawing it, which might be something you want to do. But I'm going to go ahead and do some windows first because these are pretty easy. For that, I want to add trim around the windows. And I'm going to select I'm going to use my offset tool, which I believe is also under, it's under the push-pull command. See this one right here, offset? You want to click on that, and once you're in offset, this got tricky last time, we use our select tool. We have to select multiple items. Now if I click in offset, and I click on the line, left click and pull it, notice it'll set off. Well, trim is about 3.5 inches big. So I'm going to type 3.5. Oops, I went in. Try that again. 3.5. Now I've got a 3.5 inch trim around this window. Well, this window is also split in half with it's a double hung window. Each half is split in half. These are 6/6 windows. And now this is divided into thirds. So I'm not sure how to best do that other than I would take 2'9" and divide it by 3. Which is 33 inches divided by 3, which means every 11 inches it's going to get broken. So I'm going to put a line here. I'm going to go over 11. There's that, and I'll do the same thing from over here. There's that. So now I've got my 6/6 window, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got trim around it. Well, what I could do is I could do that for every single window, but there's an easier way. I'm going to select all these lines. Oh, I'm holding down the shift key while I'm clicking. And when I do that, it adds or subtracts an item to the selection. I want it to add, but if I make a mistake and click that, I can double click on it again and it goes away. Now notice, oops, I already made a mistake. I don't want these lines. All I want All right, so I've taken all the mullion divisions and the trim. I'm going to go to my move command. I'm going to go to this corner of the window. I'm going to go control. So that's plus, left click. Oh, look, I just did it on that window. I just did it on that window. And there, and the other one's a door, so I don't want to add it to that. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have kept going. So now I have to go through all that selection again because I got out of the command too early. But you get faster the second time. Um, Again, just having the rectangles for the windows could get you through what you have to do. You do not have to go this far, but I would because it would make it a little easier for me later on down the road. And you can see I forgot a line there and hit the wrong button. can fix that. Now, SketchUp has a feature which automatically profiles things, which is on all the time in the free version. I don't particularly like it because it messes up. And sometimes it profiles things that shouldn't be profiled. For example, that line, and that line. It's not going to matter for what you're doing. Control, release. And there, now I've got all the mullions and all the trim on the front windows. Now I got to do the side windows. I want to do trim around this door. This door has kind of weird trim. So this door's got a little 5'5" opening on it. And I don't give the dimension here, so we're just going to have to make some of this stuff up. I do have big pieces of trim here. I have a big piece of trim here. So let's go ahead and put some of that in, because some of it's going to mess with. Part of this trim actually stops at the door, at the top of the window. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to erase those top lines on that window because I don't need them because there's trim there. That big trim. Okay, I've got these piers that come out 1'5" over here. I am got another one over here. Huh. You're going to want to make sure you get all these lines, or you could just draw it in. I'm just copying because I like to copy it. Okay, now I've got the two piers for the elevation. I'm going to start working on this entry. It's 5'5" wide. I can't tell how far it is over the window, but if I had to guess, let's see. I'm going to look on my elevation. Now I'm going to eyeball some stuff. Okay, I know that this opening is 5'5", and that's 7 inches. But how wide are these? And how tall is that? Well, let's go ahead and make this opening. In particular, how tall is that? This clapboard's 4 inches, so it sure looks like it's about 1, 2, 3 clapboards tall. So we're going to go a foot there for this top window. And I just have to get close. And this is okay. There's 5'5". I've started this opening. Now I've got to. That's the opening. So I got to match this over here. So how far is that distance? I measure it. Well, what I could do, I can either measure it and say, oh, look, this distance is 8.5 inches. That works for me. Something is wrong. Now I'm going to find out what it is. The start of that opening is supposed to be 2 feet, according to my elevations. And it's now shown at 2'7". I'm going to do a little erasing. The start of that opening is 2 foot. Now, in theory, if I went 5'5" over, this would be the same, but it's not bad. Yep, 5'5". Here we go. That's it. That looks better. Okay, I've got a little column here. It's 7 inches. I've got another one that goes 7 inches here. Now this roof, I'm going to go ahead and count clapboards again because I didn't dimension it. I'm trying to do this thing here, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're going to say it's 16 inches up. Something isn't looking right, but we're going to try it anyways. Go over here. This is about 4 inches, and it appears to stick out about 4 inches. I'm just going to go to here. Now, I don't know if my drawings show how far that sticks out, but in theory, it goes to here, and that doesn't look right. Something's... Oh, I know what the problem is. What I forgot to do was go up. One foot 3.5. So let's go ahead and do that. 1 foot 3.5. I'll come over here. That looks better. Go ahead and leave those lines in. This sticks out 4. Oh, excuse me. This went up a foot. Excuse me, 16 inches. That went up 16. It stuck out 4 inches. It went up 4 inches. And again, I'm just measuring, I'm guessing these. And then it's going to go like this. Good. I'm going to go ahead and orbit. I got to fix these windows up on the side, and then I'll do these windows. I'll do this door. I might throw some propane tanks in, and then I'm going to work on the roof edge, but I'm going to do it pretty fast. So I'm not going to talk a lot when I do this. I'm just doing the same thing that I did over there. But I forgot. Oh, that's good. I'm already in offset mode, so that should help. Oh, forgot. Now, since I see where this is going, I'm going to do things a little differently on this one. You'll see what I mean. Rather than go through that copying a million things at once and trying to copy all those individual grids into the windows, I'm going to do it a little differently. It's just pretty easy to just put these midpoint lines in. And that was easier than trying to copy 27 individual little lines. Okay, I got all those windows done. I'm going to do this door. Actually, I'm going to do Shoot. Okay, got that done. Now, what I want to do is start doing some roof work for you. The roof is going to get a little wild. Um, Showing a roof overhang, I would typically advise you that you don't necessarily have to go to all this trouble that I'm about to do. Again, I would do it because I can do it fairly quickly, and let's see how it goes. I'm going to assume that's about a 1 foot overhang. And it's going to go up about 4 inches. I'm going to come out a foot here on the green axis, and I'm going to go up 4 inches. And then I'm going to go over to here. Now what I'm going to do, this is where it gets bizarre. I'm going to go ahead and copy one of these lines. And I got to copy it again on top of itself. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. I know this seems really weird, but it will work. And again, hey, Control. Why is that not doing that? I'll go ahead and take this line and hang on. This line, and this line, and I'm going to go ahead and offset it. .5 for now. That'll work. All right, I'm going to zoom in on here. Do a little cleanup of some of my messy little things. Not even going to worry about that going away for now. I'm going to highlight this. And I'm going to do push-pull. And I'm going to go all the way back to there. Oh, come on. Put it there. Sorry for getting a little crazy on you when I'm doing this. You can just try and follow along and watch what my mouse clicks are at this point. So now I've got an overhang on the roof. I want to go ahead and add this trim in there. Huh. Yeah, no, that works. Same as before. Put it right to there. I'm erasing now. I got to put these lines back in, which I'm not even going to bother with because I got to do this whole thing over here too. So we went out a foot. We went up 4. Actually, I'm just going to copy it. Why doubt? Just copy stuff. I'm not sure. So I'm going to draw it. I'm not going to bother copying it that way. Enter. And now I'm going to get really weird. Because I know that I'm not going to be doing the back side of this, I'm just going to mirror this line. And I can't do that. I'm not even going to mirror. I'm just going to copy it. So we're going to do this. Again, you just kind of get, having done this for a while, I kind of know where some of the pitfalls are going to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this back line. There's that. I'm going to go ahead and make this a shape. Okay, and I can go ahead and erase this. Delete. I'm going to offset. Actually, wait a minute. Something looks catallywonkish. Something is catallywonkish. That's supposed to be 8'9". What I just realized is my window's in the wrong place. Is that 8'9"? Yes, it is. All right, as I'm looking at this, I was going to start drawing my trim in, and I realized that this door is supposed to be above the trim. Well, it's supposed to be 1'5" up from that edge, and it isn't. So 1'5" and 8. Now, let's go up. Let's fix that. I'll go up 1'5". I'm going to come across to here. And then what I'm going to do, if I'm lucky, is move this, but I don't think that's going to work. So we're going to have to try something else. It kind of worked. There, that looks better. You can see it grabbed other lines to move with it, which I don't care about because I'm just erasing them anyways. Just get rid of all that. This is going to go all the way over here. This is going to go all the way over here. It's good. These two are going to offset 4 inches. And if you noticed a few times where I would just, all of a sudden I realized I'd done something wrong earlier, well, that's what happens. And you have to go by and fix it. Enter. No, that didn't take. Enter. There we go. Same thing as before. Don't even worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and spin this around a little bit so I can actually see what I'm pulling to. Push, pull. Grab that right there, and we're going to go to here. See, it's messed up in the back because we cut that off. I don't know if that's going to have an impact on our final drawing. We'll find out in a minute when I go to styles. Excuse me, scenes. It's not going to matter. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I was just checking to see if my mistake was going to show up in the final product. I'm going to try and fill in those lines by putting a line here, and that filled it in. And then I can erase these 2 lines. And while I'm here, I'll reverse that face. Okay, so now I've got my overhangs in for everything. Some of these overhangs stick out a little bit, and this one has got a little base to it, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Very rarely do roofs come to a triangular point like that. You'll notice this has a little trim on it. I can fake that pretty easily by just going push-pull and going push-pull. Come here. There, push-pull. And if I just come down 4 inches, put a line there, now all of a sudden I've got some 4-inch trim. There. All right, so last thing I'm going to do is I want to put the little roof over the entry here. I want to bring these overhangs out a little bit. I'm going to stick them out about a foot. Now those overhangs stick out. I'm going to bring this one out a foot. And we'll play connect the dots on that because it's a little roof over the entry. Now I've got my little roof over the entry. I mean, I could go crazy and extend all the trim out inches, but this is fine where it is. I've got to put these on, and I've got to break up this garage door. So that's 1'5". Oh, I just figured it out. I'll go down 1'5". I'm going to break this garage door into 4s by 4s. So that's easy. Midpoint, click. Midpoint, click. See, once I put the midpoint in, it cuts the lines in half. Okay, that's we're going to call good. And again, If you went back to that, you don't have to take it this far, but when it's time to trace the perspective, this will make it easier for you. The last thing, if you wanted to do it, if you knew how tall your trees were, you might want to go to your site plan. Let's say these trees are going to be 8 feet tall. All I want you to do, see it says on face and image, draw a line up 8 feet. Okay? And draw a line up 8 feet. And draw a line up. And this will be handy. I'm not going to actually put in trees or draw trees. But I like the heights being there. Let's make this one 8 feet since we made those 8 feet. Let's make this big guy like 40 feet. Blue axis. How bad is that? Is that way up there? That's pretty big. So I'm going to go, we're going to make him smaller. Let's make him 25 feet. Yeah, I'm going to go 30 feet. There. All right, now I've got some other ones in the back. And I think I would make those the big ones. I'd make the same 30-footer. And I don't know, maybe that's an 8-footer. That looks like a 12. Let's make that a 12. We're going to make these little guys 6s. All I'm doing, the reason that I'm doing this is so that when you trace this, now you can see how big your trees are supposed to be, because you're just going to be freehanding a tree over it anyways, but you have a rough idea what the heights are. And you could put the rest of them in the back through here if you wanted, but I don't really need to. I'll work around that. Um, I'm going to call it at this. If you can get this far, that's tremendous. Um, I'll see you next Tuesday in class, and have fun with SketchUp. And remember the cardinal rule of SketchUp: Google is your friend. If you can't figure out how to do something, type it in Google and you will probably find an answer. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday.